Hi there, Facebook friends. This is the City of Santa Barbara Creeks Division, and we are at our, I don't know which one, of our next Watershed Wednesdays. We're here at the Arroyo Burro open space. I'm here with Erin Markey, and she's going to take you on a tour of our restoration and talk about upcoming restoration efforts at the site. So here you go, Erin. Thanks, Liz. Yes, you can flip it around if you'd like to.
Sure.
Say hi.
Hey everybody, I'm Erin Markey, the Creeks Restoration Planner with the City of Santa Barbara Creeks Division. Like Liz said, we're out here at the Arroyo Burro Open Space Park. This is a 21-acre open space park made up of an acquisition that occurred in 2016 of about 14.5 acres on the west side of the creek, and then an existing almost 7 acres that the city owned on the east side of the creek. So since the city purchased the property back in 2016, it became a public open space park. The Creeks Division started working on designing and planning a restoration project out here. So we hired an engineering firm, worked with them to design it, and then implemented it in the end of 2018. So it's not even quite 2 years since we finished that restoration project. But we're just gonna do a little stroll through the park and show you kind of what we did out here. So again, if you're just joining us, this is our Watershed Wednesday talk. We're out at the Arroyo Burro Open Space Park. I'm Erin Markey. We're gonna keep trying to do these on Wednesdays, so if you're interested, sign up for our e-news to stay informed about all the fun events we're doing, to try and keep you guys informed about what's going on at all our parks and project sites at the Creeks Division. So I'm gonna flip this around. So here's some of the restoration planting we've done out here. So as I mentioned, these plants are like 1.5 years old. They were installed in December of 2008, so not even 2 years ago. We were lucky last winter was a really good winter, so the plants definitely benefited from that. And this year was actually turned out with some late spring rain, a fairly decent winter as well. So the plants are really happy out here. We've had really high survival rates, over 90%, and we're looking forward to things continuing to grow and fill in. So a little background on kind of what the site looked like when the city took ownership. This whole lower section of Arroyo Burro Creek, so we're down in the lower portion of the watershed, where the creek channel is perennial, meaning it flows year-round. I don't know if anyone joined us a couple weeks ago for our tour up at Barger Canyon. So that's up in the upper part of the watershed, where the creek is more intermittent. It flows during the rainy season, but usually tends to go dry in most places during the summer. So down here, there's stream flow year-round, which is really important for wildlife and creek critters. But prior to the city taking ownership, this channel had what we call incised or downcut, likely due to upstream kind of urban development changing the natural hydrology of the creek channel. But so the channel itself had downcut, which led to the destabilization of the creek toe and creek banks. So there was a lot of active bank erosion out here prior to the project. The creek channel was about 25 feet below the upper bank. So we had just these really steep incised creek banks that never accessed their historic floodplains. So as part of the restoration out here, one of the major components was to try and recreate floodplain habitat out here. So we've created over 1 acre of floodplain habitat. The vegetation has grown in so much, it's going to be tricky to even show you. But basically, we graded into the site these shallow floodplain terraces. I'll try to get down here. So basically, these wide, broad, flat areas adjacent to the creek channel, they're on average 2 to 4 feet above the active creek channel. and so they're designed to be accessed during what we call 2-year storm event, so a fairly frequent storm event. You can see the active creek channel hopefully down there. So during a heavy rain event, stream flows come up. They spread out over these wide, shallow floodplain terraces adjacent to the creek. This has all sorts of benefits for habitat and water quality, as that water, during a heavy rain, when the stream flows are really high, that's when our creeks are kind of most erosive and have the most power, so they actually can lead to erosion. But when they spread out over these wide floodplain terraces, that water actually slows down, and so it loses some of that erosive force. It also has an opportunity to spread out and sink in and recharge groundwater. It also, as it slows down, sediment and nutrients tend to drop out of the water, so we get water quality benefits as well. So recreating this floodplain habitat was really important habitat-wise. These areas act as kind of both a filter and a sponge. Is kind of a way of looking at them. In addition to that, it also really widens the area that's available for what we call riparian habitat or streamside habitat. So there's a lot of native trees, sycamores, we've got an alder right here that only grow within riparian areas. And these are really important habitats for birds and other critters. So by doing this, we've also created a much more diverse and larger riparian area for wildlife. And it improves the creek buffer, so we've widened the area that is creek buffer habitat for water quality and habitat. Let's see, so I don't know if anyone's got questions. We'd love to take questions throughout, kind of try to keep this interactive. This sign kind of shows you what I'm talking about. So that dotted line representing kind of the previous condition of these high terraces, and then we've come in and actually removed soil to create these shallow floodplain terraces adjacent to the creek channel. Let's see, we've got a question from Summer. It says, what's Erin's favorite creaky bird or critter? Man, there's so many. We have a lot of hawks at this site. We have a lot of raptors. We've got a lot of herons that hang out in the creek channel. So those are some cool birds that hang out here. We have a kingfisher there's one kingfisher who comes every spring, it seems like, and hunts for stickleback in the creek channel. So those are some cool birds we've got out here. Yeah, I guess my favorite creek critter would probably be a ringtail cat, but that's just because I've never seen one and they're so elusive and rare. So we'll keep walking. As you can see just how much the vegetation's growing and filling in. Things are looking really great out here. We're continuing to do maintenance, so we have irrigation that's set up that we will likely use to irrigate the plants through the summer if it gets fairly warm. But typically on these project sites we only irrigate for the first and second summer, and then after that the plants are large enough and enough established that they can make it on their own. I'm going to turn this around. So there's a couple of trails out here, a number of large existing oak trees. As part of the project designs, we created these floodplain terraces, all avoiding any existing native trees. There's also a lot of concrete and other debris that was removed from the creek channel. I think over 100 tons of concrete. We found an old car, rusted out old car in our work that we removed as well. And then in areas where there were just steep kind of eroding creek banks, we did some restoration to lay those back and stabilize them and then revegetate them with native plants. So In total, it was just over 4 acres, and we planted over 7,000 plants. I think it was 7,400 and something container plants out here. Over 30 different native species. We also removed some highly invasive non-natives like Arundo donax, which is a target species the city's been targeting for a number of years. There was almost 1.5 acres of Arundo out here that was removed as part of the project. And then a few eucalyptus trees and Cape ivy, English ivy, a number of other non-native species that were removed. I'm gonna stop here and just try to show you guys on the opposite side of the bank. We have another floodplain terrace over there that was installed. So as I said, over 1 acre of floodplain habitat, kind of alternating back and forth along the creek on either side of the creek channel. And we're almost to our upper terrace, which, because it's so large, you can kind of get a better idea of what these things look like. This is one of the oldest, largest oaks on the property. Really beautiful tree that we worked around as part of the project. So this is our upper floodplain terrace. And as you can see, it looks just like a jungle of young plants, but the creek channel is right down here. And then this wide flat area is our floodplain terrace. So just completely vegetated with riparian plants, doing great. All of the terraces were accessed during last winter's storms. This winter we didn't have quite as large storm events, so only 2 of the terraces were accessed. They were all set to be accessed by a 2-year storm event, but they're all at just slightly different elevations, and that gives us a little more diversity of habitat. And then I guess we could talk about native plants a little bit. This is our California native blackberry. Let's see if I can.
It's like a joystick.
Oh, okay. So this is our California native blackberry. This was actually container plants that we planted about 1.5 years ago, doing amazingly well. It spreads rhizominously, so it's spreading all throughout this area. An important plant, it produces blackberries. Here's a few little ones. That is an important food source for animals and critters out here. We also have right here our native elderberry, not flowering yet, but will be soon. And when it does, it'll get covered in these little blueberries, which are edible, but especially edible by birds. People can eat them, but a lot of native birds really rely on them, so another important food source. Got some poison oak that's coming back in on its own. A lot of oak trees. I think we planted over 200 oak trees out here. So we've got a young little oak right here. Yeah, so once again, just to give you guys, if you're just tuning in, we're out at the Arroyo Burro Open Space Park, where the City Creeks Division completed a large restoration project out here just 1.5 years ago. We're checking things out. We're currently working on plans to do a second round of restoration. There's a small tributary drainage up to the west that, got a little side-blotch lizard, and we've got lots of fence lizards. Sorry, lizard distracted me. We're gonna do some restoration on a little tributary drainage off to the west of the site that drains down Campanile Hill, and then some trail improvements, and we're looking at actually installing a pedestrian bridge at the north end of the park to connect to the future Class 1 Las Positas bike path or multi-use path that'll go in all along Las Positas Road. So that's kind of the future of what work that we plan to do out here. So this is just a great spot to stop and really see what these terraces look like. So this is kind of a secondary high flow channel. Whoop, camera is moving. That gets access on a high storm event. Water comes up and then spreads out all along this floodplain terrace. So yeah, that's kind of the upper end of the project site. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to type them in now. Otherwise, we'll be posting this on our website so it can be watched again later. And with that, I think I'll sign off. Hope you guys can tune in to future Watershed Wednesdays. We don't have a plan for next week, but we'll follow up with what that is shortly and hope you guys can tune in. All right, thanks.